Hi, Diana.
Hi, Helen.
Welcome, and thank you for agreeing to have this talk with me.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here today, and it's wonderful always to have time to chat with you and just being in your presence.
Aw, you're so sweet. I'm happy to have this conversation for you to talk a little bit more about your holistic approach. I know you and I met when you were part of the agency that I work with at San Jose State University. And I know that at that point, you may have been one of the first therapists that integrate or already have a yoga background, actually. So that was quite fascinating for us. And we have both since left that university. And I really am excited to explore this whole umbrella of holistic therapy. So thank you for again for agreeing to do this. Maybe I could have you introduce yourself a bit and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, well, I'm so happy that we can get connected again and happy to be here today, Alan. Yeah, it's been a while since we were at San Jose State University. I know that what it has to be at least maybe 10 years or maybe less, a little bit less than that, I think. Maybe I'm
That you
overshooting.
were there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so at the time I was a postdoc at San Jose State as in my clinical psychology. And I was also a yoga teacher. And so I started teaching yoga first. And um I remember my college friend brought me to my first yoga class,
Mm.
and I didn't actually know much about yoga back then, and I she took me to the class, and it was a warm yoga class, so we did all the stretches and the breathing. And I remember at the very end, my favorite part was the shavasana, where we just lay on the ground and we just completely melt in the floor. And then like the sound and the music of like what it was, it like Over the Rainbow was playing in the background. And I was just like, wow, I never experienced this kind of like peace before.
Mm.
And that was my first like introduction to really the body work. And and so I got into that practice, and well, after graduating from college, I started my degree in psychology. I was also really interested and curious about the mind for so long. And so yeah, over the years with these two background, I kind of weave them together. Um, and now I have a private practice doing psychotherapy, but also really focused on really somatic work in my practice.
Mm.
Yeah, so my specialty is in intergenerational trauma therapy. I really like to work with folks who wants to know more about their family of origin and the traumas that's been passed down and carry on from generation to generation. And what better way to get access to that information than the body, right? And so that's kind of how I weave in the body, the mind, the spirit, and my work with my clients. So that's a little bit about who I am.
Okay, so it sounds like you started with yoga first, and you were a yoga instructor before you even start grad school?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I got
Okay.
my yoga teaching certificate. So what happened was I graduated uh college, and then in between, so I had like about a year. So I want to study abroad. Okay. So backtrack. I want to study abroad. And my parents go, I have Asian parents. So my parents are like, well, you can't study abroad unless you finish all your credits. And I was like, well, that defeats the purpose because you get some of your credits and you're studying abroad. They're like, we will not hear none of it. And I was at UC San Diego at the time. And we're like, okay, fine. I just have to finish all my schooling. So I finished my school a little bit earlier. And so I went to study abroad, I went to New Zealand for 3 months.
Mm.
And I had a great time. But that's not part of the story. The story was when I came back, I then had this gap year or this gap time of, I didn't know what to do after I graduated. I knew at the time I wanted to apply for a clinical psychology program.
Mm.
And even then, so I knew I wanted to be a psychologist. Okay. And
Okay.
like, no idea like how to be a psychologist. I literally Googled like how to be a psychologist. And they're like, you need a doctorate degree. I'm like, oh, I need a doctorate degree. Then I went to look into schools that would take a doctorate degree. And so I literally had to like put
Mm.
uh, fit the puzzle pieces together for
Mm.
that. And so while I was figuring out how to get into my doctorate program, I had this like gap time, and I was practicing, and I was using that time to practice a lot of yoga. And I really found the benefit of this yoga practice. And
Mm.
eventually I signed up for the teacher training and did the teacher training. And so that's when I like started teaching yoga um, while I was in
Mm.
the program. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Fascinating. So
Mhm.
you were starting to talk about using the body to access this intergenerational issues. How can you say a little bit more what that looks like and how you do that? I don't know if you could, yeah, describe it verbally, I guess, because I would imagine it's bodily movements and such.
Yeah, yeah. So, I really believe in that. I really believe that, in our body, in our genes, that, we carry our ancestors with that. And it's kind of encoded in our body. And sometimes I would have clients that would have anxiety or depression or some sorts of like mental kind of disruption in their body. And sometimes they might not even have um, an idea where it's coming from.
Mm.
And of course, our childhood plays a big deal. And I think also the things that we carry from our ancestor and generations above, right? But sometimes we don't have their stories, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes we don't have, you know, we don't have that, we have not witnessed their experiences.
Mhm.
Um, but if we come back to this body that's encoded with what they have passed down to us, we can really get access to this. And so in my sessions, a lot of times, um, I start my clients off with just slowing everything down
Mhm.
and taking some deep breaths, right? And really have them take the time to really tune in to their body. And
Mhm.
to be honest, it's not always easy.
Mhm.
It's not always easy. Some people who are very disconnected, who are never had this practice, it's not like, oh, it just happens right away. It's actually a skill that we have to train over time to get this connection or to learn how to do this,
Yeah.
right? But the more we practice, the easier it gets. And then once we check in with the body, we slow everything down. We become the witness, the person who witnessed what is going on inside the body. And it might be a thought, it might be a sensation,
Mhm.
it might be this little knot in the stomach,
Mhm.
or it might be this feeling of like this heaviness in this chest, whatever it is. It could be very subtle. And from that, by us giving it space, we can really dive into figure out what this may be about, right? To give it space to kind of open that up. And from that, there might be a memory that pops up, memory that pops up, um, or or a feeling that pops up, and that feeling can give us more history about what this body is telling us, wisdom the body is telling us. Yeah.
So you really start from the body to explore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you have them do bodily movements along with that?
Yeah, if it's helpful, right? If let's say we're doing part of the work, let's say we're doing part of the work and they're like, wow, I'm feeling this heaviness in my chest and I just want to open my arms. I just want to open my arms and create space. And we said, let's do that. Let's follow where the wisdom of your body want to take us. Let's open up and creating that space. And so, yeah, we follow the body if that movement feels appropriate and right for them. We also always want to check in with the client first if that feels okay to do. We'll do it. Yeah. And yeah, go ahead. You're going to say something.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, and also sometimes with support, right? Maybe the client is moving. I see all my clients do telehealth, so it's not like I physically touch them, right? But getting them more support with like a pillow or like blankets, those are other objects that we may use in the session to give them additional tools.
Okay. It's fascinating that you go from the body up, because that is what you talk about are techniques that I also use. I have absolutely no yoga background. I mean, I take yoga classes, but I'm, definitely not enough. Um, but what you're talking about, it reminds me of emotion focused approach. And very mindful, then encouraging them of that somatic movement and mindful movement type of thing. But you start from the body, whereas I start with what they're telling me, and then I have them go to their body. So it's very fascinating that we kind of get to the same place, I guess. But you work a lot more with the body, it sounds like.
Yeah, like of course, whenever we start our session, client always want to like talk a little bit about what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I have them, well, let's see if it's alive with us in the body. And I invite them into the body to kind of explore it. Yeah. So there is a little bit of talking. So in the beginning.
Okay. And then, so when you invite them, for those that have a hard time, you said that they really need to practice a lot more. Do you keep checking in on their body and try to sort of strengthen that connection?
Yeah. So part of like my practice is, so I use a bunch of different tools. I am EMR and I have also Brainspotting and I'm getting trained in Hakomi and also psychomotor system. So it's a bunch of different names. But what I want to say is that like the the I lost track of what I was going to say.
That's okay. You were talking about like different pieces. I was just asking about, like, for those that have a hard time connecting to their body, you keep checking in or have them strengthen that connection somehow.
Yeah. So like I would use so with the Hakomi method, it's also important for the therapist themselves to kind of check in with not check in, but also act as a witness. Also act as a witness for the client. So initially the client may not you have enough practice to be in tune with their body, but as with the assistance of me, I would notice little things like them. Oh, I noticed that you blinked right there. What
Yeah.
was happening there, right?
Yeah.
Or I would notice that you kind of turn your head that way, sideways. There,
Mhm.
when you talked about this, let's explore that a little bit more. Let's slow down and explore that a little bit more. So I would act as the observer to support them.
Yeah.
They can slowly learn that process too for themselves.
That is really focused attention on the client. Like when they start to shift the positions, or some clients, their legs are shaking a lot, or they
Yeah.
they do something very different when they start to talk about a different topic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because, I've had clients who like their legs would shake, but on telehealth, I only see
That's true. Yeah.
but I would see their body. I was like, hey, your leg is shaking. They're like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, there's something going on there. Like, keep the legs,
Yeah.
we're not going to stop it. Keep the body doing what it's doing. But
Yeah.
let's listen and notice what the shaking may be about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Give it some space.
So it's not like you're having them shift by
Mhm.
calling attention to it. You're having them notice it and maybe encourage it even more, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah, like just keep going. We're not stopping it, we're not judging it, or we're just compassionately noticing it and slowing it down to kind of
Mhm.
just notice what it's like. And maybe even having them like kind of slow down um their kicking or moving just to start to notice what that may be about.
Maybe they're breathing and such.
Yeah.
Is it more challenging than to be doing it over telehealth?
Mm-hmm. I would say it is different.
Yeah.
Okay. But for me, it is different in a better way. Maybe everybody's a little bit different. I'm the type of therapist that can get really like immersed with my clients. And so when I get really immersed in them, like it's hard. As a therapist, you kind of always want a little bit of like an unbiasedness to it and kind of
Mm,
to have to create enough space, a
mm,
space to kind of be more neutral and in a way that can give like a more if you're too close and too absorbed, it can cloud your vision a bit, right?
mm,
And so when I used to work with client in person, I would find my body like aching, where the client's aching, and I would find myself like get really uncomfortable in places even sitting with my clients, my
mm,
body would really get pulled.
mm,
And so actually having that distance for me really helps me as a therapist. i can
mm,
i can serve my client better for it.
mm,
Of course, when we are in person, there's different things. There's that more of that connection that you get,
mm,
right?
mm,
If the client is open to a little physical touch, we can
mm,
offer that to them. So there's perks in that too. But
mm.
for me in general, I've experienced a lot of positivity in telehealth doing
Sounds
the
like you're quite an empath, and kinesthetic empath.
yeah, 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 I would say so. Yeah, I would feel a lot of times what my clients are feeling.
That's the clairsentience, I believe.
Yeah, I get that clear sentient, and I also have what clear cognizant, like the all
Mhm. You just
knowing.
know. Yeah.
But the one thing that I have more difficult time is the clairvoyant thing, the clear
Uh-huh.
seeing. Yeah, I have a
Uh-huh.
hard time seeing seeing
Yeah.
they come
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, that's not good to be so absorbed that you feel their struggles so much that it drags you down.
Yeah,
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 you could use some of that in treating and facilitating their process, but I would imagine that gets quite heavy for you. Yeah.
yeah. And also with my approach, I think too, and you with the mindfulness, you really have to track the client bit by bit. And if you have just the frame, it's so much easier for me to track. I
Mm.
don't get overwhelmed by all the other stuff in the room. I am just in that.
Ah,
And so I find it really helpful too, to kind of um, really help being that observer piece for my client.
yeah. And it sounds like you continue to sort of explore all these different methods to use the different ways to kind of help access and facilitate their exploration.
Yeah, yeah,
How fun, huh?
yeah. It's fun. It's yeah. Before when I first started doing therapy, it was very cognitive based, because that's a lot of times how we were trained. And I almost feel like there's a pressure in the beginning. And I know that we were taught in many ways that we don't have the answers, but because it's so cognitive based, it always feels like I have to like know enough information to support
Mhm.
or help my clients. I have to know enough resources, or I have to know enough um science, or I need to know enough something to be able to meet my client where they're to be able to help my client. And I would, especially in the beginning, feel like a lot of pressure as a
Mm.
therapist. But over time, as I'm applying this type of somatic work, it's actually really healing and helpful for me as a therapist. Like I almost call it like I'm going into meditation myself.
Ah,
And so this is another hour of meditation where I am sitting observing my client and pacing my own breath,
mm,
you know, um, and paying attention,
mhm,
opening my heart for compassion and love.
mm.
It's not, I'm saying this, but it's not perfect, but it's a practice that I get to practice that.
That's such a good point. Yeah, I mean, our work just in general, well, starting with the cognitive piece, I mean, it's only for myself, it's only after I burn out that I started to explore all these bodily somatic parts and bringing back spirituality because I like you like and their culture is very much cognitive focus, particularly for our field, and it continues to be like that. And that's where the evidence base is, right? Where these research that are funded, they really study the mind. And I think our field is starting to shift, which is great. And there are all these different modalities that we get to now learn and explore. And yeah, sometimes it could feel like we're trying to incorporate and trying to stay with that tradition of cognitive piece. And I would imagine clients probably come in with a lot of that as well. I don't know if maybe those that come to you knowing your background in yoga, maybe they're the different type of clients that come to you. Um, but I find that for my clients, they're still very much in their head, and some of them at least takes a lot of work to be open up to their body and to connect, and you being very present is is both challenging to be that present and that mindful with them because we have to do, and I want to invite you to talk about our work and ourselves, to ground ourselves, our work to be able to be that present and to be that focused in 50-minute sessions or however long that your sessions are, takes a lot to prepare and to walk away from as well. So anyways, yeah, and I know I just threw out a few things. Maybe you pick up where it kind of resonates with you.
Yeah. I can start with kind of the evidence piece that you talked about earlier. You know, the good thing about these evidence practice, I think psychology as a field is still a really growing field. We still have so much that we don't know.
Yeah.
And so the evidence pieces really, help us progress as a field to kind of get us to where we need to go. And, it opens the world up, and to the, mental health has been bigger now because of these evidence-based research than before, right? But the problem a lot of times with just sticking with it, it's not all or nothing, but just sticking to the evidence-based practice is that it's a one size that fits all. Like you get a manual and this is what we do. And, it's, a lot of time it has to do with just like fixing the head problems, or changing your thoughts kind of things. The problem with that is, as humans, we are not one size fit all. We are little snowflakes, and each of our little snowflake is very unique to us. We have our own stories and histories, upbringing, genetics, body. There's so many intricate details of who we are that if we only do what is evidence-based and go off the manual, we lose a lot of other parts of ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And where do we get the answer of who we are and what we need? Mm-hmm. That answer lies in our body. So we can't look elsewhere. And that's why we come back and say, hey, what's happening with me today in my body? And that's where we start, because that will give us the story of this little snowflake of what is happening in there. Use this, the addition and supplement of these manualized treatment in some ways to kind of help out, but we can't only focus on that, right? Learning how to blend the two. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the Western field is very focused on the cognitive piece. What I've noticed over time is that when we change the thoughts, yes, that does help. But when we start to feel different in our body, or even in our energetic field, it's almost like this energetic field that we create that is different. Our thoughts naturally change. I don't know if you notice that, Alan, for yourself.
Can you say a little bit more about the energetic field?
Yeah, like let's say I'm feeling really pissed off and I'm angry and I'm upset, and I'm having these, then my thoughts are like mostly like upsetting thoughts or angry, like, oh, this person's so terrible, I don't like the strength that I'm having, oh, I'm so tired today, and all these thoughts are generated from this feeling that I'm having, right? So I can go around trying to tackle those thoughts, like stop feel thoughts of I'm angry, change it around to say I am feeling good, or, stop having this drink actually tastes good. Let's change our thoughts in that way. It takes a lot of work to really try to change each of those thoughts. But if we take a moment to slow down, to breathe, maybe even to connect with our hearts, and to really embrace this energy of loving compassion, really breathe it in and work on opening our anger up, or even leaning into our anger with love and compassion, to really work on that. We don't need to be changing those thoughts. What happen is the anger kind of start to melt away from our body, and those thoughts of I'm so tired, I'm so angry, upset, it kind of start to melt away itself. And I'm saying all this because to really emphasize the power of the way how we manage our body can influence so much
Mm,
bigger, much more powerfully than if we just work on the cognitive piece of the mind.
mm, So the energetic field, you've mentioned a couple of times coming back to the heart and go and letting the heart lead. It's reminding me of the Heart Math Institute and the research that heart is a lot more, it emits a lot more energy than the brain does. And we often don't realize that. And again, this is sort of the bottom up approach of going from the heart instead of going from the brain or the mind, as people equate the two, the mind and the brain together. Um, and so is that what you're talking about in terms of the energy field of the heart? And okay.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Like, I think a lot of times we like try to solve this issue that we have with our head, and we go in circles or in a loop. And
Kind of rationalize, right?
yes, like, and people find themselves stuck, right?
Mhm.
So we just, take a pause from that and drop down, like you said, into the heart. Um, and that may mean just slowing down, like I said before, breathing and connecting to the heart. Um, it might pause the thinking a little bit, and our body will have so much more answers for us, like help.
Mm.
It will organically know where we need to do what we need to do.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
You have such a calming presence yourself. And so I would imagine clients sitting with you get co-regulated with your energy, that calming energy. And even as you lead them into their body, it could help facilitate that even more. Um, so, and a couple of phrases that you use in terms of compassion and can't remember what other you mentioned, but I'm now very curious on what practices that you use and what kind of, I don't know what your spiritual history background is and what kind of practices, if that's related in how you are in what you bring in your presence and how you relate with clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So my family grew up were Buddhists.
Mhm.
Have like in my childhood home, we have like these altars with the different Buddhas all
Yeah.
over. Um, and I would hear my mom like, chanting in the mornings, and
Mm,
so they're Buddhists. Um, I wouldn't say that I'm particularly like specific to a particular religion. I
mm,
am very open to all religion. I think they all have really great things to teach. And I would consider myself more spiritual.
mhm,
And being said with that, say even with that, I I um I do have a lot of history um in connection with Buddhism.
mm,
And so especially the connection with Wang Ying,
mm,
I find myself having that, it's I don't think it's a surprise that I was born in that family. I think there's a connection there.
mm,
And so I find it's like coming home almost. I wouldn't say like, oh yeah, all the time. It's growing up, it's like, oh, this is what my family does, like I'm just a part of it, but it's almost coming home to it, like going around, and almost over the years, it has like my path has like guided
mm,
me into this path of what Guan Yin does is she's a goddess of compassion and suffering, right? And so it's like she's guiding me on this path to come back to her. And yeah, like now I find myself, and that's part of my practice in the morning. I either do a little bit of yoga or qigong, and I do my chanting. I
Mm.
do my chantings in the mornings. I do my Om Mani Padme Hum, which
Oh.
was one of the chantings for the compassion and suffering.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I allow that to guide me, and for that to
Mm.
clear my energy and my space,
Mm.
I can be fully present for my clients. Yes,
That's awesome. So you do that every morning?
every morning. Yeah, I
Good
did
for you.
started it after I had my second baby, and I kind of like it's almost like I kind of had to do it because
Mm.
I was finding myself being a new mom and
Mm.
clients, and like you said earlier, like the burnout piece, right? It's
Mm.
at a point where you're like, this isn't serving me, nor is it serving my clients where I'm at. I need to
Mm.
find practice that's also resonate with
Mm.
me.
Mm.
I can feel better.
Mhm.
And so that's when I started doing the chanting. And I was like, I can't believe I'm it's so there's days when I wake up, I can't believe I'm doing this. Am I turning into my mom? And but I noticed the difference. I know that after
Wow.
chanting, I would be a lot more calm and peace.
Wow.
My emotion isn't so much like,
Mhm.
and it feels like more calm and like steady.
Mm.
I used to have a hard time, like, I'm used to do yoga, so I'm moving, I'm stretching, it's really hard for me to like just even here, like to sit still for a long time, like imagine just sitting with the clients, but I
Yeah.
find do the chanting and like still it helps calm my body down too.
Mm. Mm.
So those are some of the things that I do for myself in the morning for self-care.
That's quite disciplined to do it every morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
So I like to do it at night too, like if I
Yeah.
get the chance to do it, but not all the time, especially with the kids. It's hard to do it, keep up
Yeah.
that night.
You
Yeah.
probably have to wake up before your kids, right? To do.
Sometimes I have to do it with her, like because she wakes up with me and she loves going outside. So
Mm.
part of this whole thing is I'm learning how to incorporate them in it. She loves being outside, and so we would walk outside while I chant and hold her hands, and it's really it's actually gotta find joy, and it's not just like a thing I have to do. Like, how can I do it mindfully? How can I enjoy it while I'm doing it? It's not just I'm gonna exercise or do yoga to get it out of the way. It's like, how can I do it in enjoyment too? And she wake up, we'll do it together.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you're because I'm thinking of chanting like you're sitting still and you're doing this, you're going through this ritual type of thing. You're talking about like chanting as you're talking. I mean, as you're walking.
Oh yeah, we'll go outside, and then I'll carry my mala beads, and we'll look in the sky, we'll look at the trees, um and as I'm doing it's kind of even like a walking meditation. It's really
Hmm.
and then there's days when if my babies do sleep in, then I will also sit down and I'll do a sitting one. So every day, so I'm listening to my body. Every day is different, right?
Yeah,
Every day is different. It's not the same. And
that's
and depend
amazing.
days where I'm like, I just really want to walk around chanting around my house, and I would do that too.
Ah, it kind of reminds me of like some people like sing, and maybe it's not like a spiritual religious sort of text, right? But they sing around the house and it brings that different energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think the voice. So part of setting yoga is learning the different chakras, right? So
Mm.
you powerhouses, right? You got power your solar plexus right here, if you can see. And the other power point is our voice, our
Mm.
throat. right? And so as we able to verbalize,
Mm.
sing, voice what we need to say, that is also our ability to like to step into our power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've started to, and again, I don't have that yoga training, but I've started to, because I find myself sounding off, just humming, but it's not even a song. It's something that I sort of make up. And I sometimes will change my tone or my sound to see what feels good. Like sometimes I just feel like I need a groan, like, "Rrr."
My gosh, I've had that experience just 2 weeks ago where I just needed to roar like a tiger. I totally get it.
Yes. And I find that that shifts, that helps kind of shift a little bit of my, where I am in my body and how my body is. Yeah.
Absolutely. And even with the chanting in the morning, some days I'll wake up and the sound would be like really off. I'm like, oh my God, where am I at today? Like I can really tell where I'm at with like how I'm chanting this and saying it out loud. And then so after like doing my rounds at the end, it just gets it's starting to flow a little bit and gets
Mhm.
what it was the word more, it has more harmony to it, I guess. I feel like I'm in a better place.
Well, like you said, each time our body is very different, right? And from moment to moment, it sounds like you're sort of staying attuned to what your body needs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's a practice. Sometimes like there's days when I still moments, not days, moments when I like yesterday I was driving and then like I saw a yellow light. And by the time I was crossing, it was a red light. I was like, how did I miss that? I could check out so easily, right? And it's a reminder to come back again, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Really.
Sometimes we get so busy and our mind just carries us off, right? And that's another practice of being in the moment and catching yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
So it doesn't, even with the practice, all that doesn't go away. It's still present, very present. But what happens is it's a little bit faster to come back, perhaps, or maybe you notice it faster, like
mm,
angry or upset. Like maybe before it would take me hours before I realized that, but maybe now it'll take me maybe like only 1 hour that I realize
mm,
I'm really upset. Maybe I should like go for a walk or something. And so
yeah.
I could have more ability to change that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, with practice for sure. Mhm.
Definitely. Mhm.
Go ahead.
I think I was gonna say, I was gonna answer something else, but it flew away.
Sorry. I was gonna, well, it'll come back, I'm sure. So I was wondering if there's a sort of a favorite practice. I know each individual is different. Each client comes in with very different combinations of what they're struggling with. Is there a practice or something that you like to incorporate and lead them in? I don't know if you would be okay, something brief that you could sort of lead us in.
Yeah, absolutely. I been this is my actually my own practice, which is connecting to our Mother Earth. Okay.
Mm,
Mother Earth. The most powerful, one of the most powerful thing in what we have in Mother Earth is the sun. Okay. And so in the midst of being a new mother and starting my private practice and creating a home for my family, I find myself oftentimes really, really like at the end of the day, just drained and my energy was depleted. And when I went to my acupuncturist, she said, I'm giving a lot of energy out and not enough receiving or taking in.
uh,
Okay. And that's when I started my own meditation around the sun. The sun is one of the most powerful um, body of energy that we have. right? And if you could tell, like we have people who have solar panels out there, like when we absorb the sun's energy, how much power and energy it can give to our house, to our electricity, to things that we need. Think about what if we get plugged into the sun ourselves in our body, right? And so one of the things that I lead my clients in is a sun meditation, help them feel recharged. Um, and this is a really good way because some people may not, you know, let's say they might not be like the psychology stuff can be really like kind of dense sometimes and heady and whatnot, but a simple sun connecting to the earth energy is very easy to understand. Yeah. So what do you want me to go ahead and lead you to it, or want me to
That'd
talk
be
about?
great if you're okay with that.
Let's go ahead and just go ahead and do. So Alan, if it feels okay with you, go ahead and just sit back. Yeah, go ahead and let your eyes kind of softly close. And just taking a moment to just follow your breath. Letting your breath kind of slow our pace down. And then in this breath, go ahead and start to bring your attention to your heart space. Maybe think about some things that you are grateful for today. It could be something so simple as, that you got to wake up, open your eyes, get out of bed, eat your breakfast, drink water. Really finding gratitude in the most simplest things, taking one step in your house. Being able to breathe, being able to hear the sound of the birds outside. So many little things we can be grateful for every day. And as you find the gratitude in your heart, you might notice that your heart start to like open up a little bit more. And see if you could start to feel some love in your heart and appreciation. Maybe it's the love that you have for a little furry pet, or it's the love that you have for an idea or a mission, or it's the love that you have for a client. See if you can let that start to bubble up along with the gratitude. And notice what it's like to hold love and gratitude in your heart. And notice how that energy feels in your body. And now, with love and gratitude in the heart, imagine the beautiful, beautiful, big rays of sun right above your head. And it shines down onto your body. And you could feel the warmth of the rays shining down on you. And we thank the sun for the energy that it's providing for you. Let it just send the beautiful ray of energy down into your body, energizing the cells of your body, energizing the muscles, your organs, the skin of your body. Let it energize your mind. And most important, let it energize your spirit. And with each breath you take in, it's as if you're breathing in that energy, taking in that light. Allow your body to open up, just like you did with the openness of the love and gratitude. That's the part that opens us to receive the beautiful light rays of the sun and its energy that it can provide for us. So let every cell of your body open up with that love and gratitude so it can receive the sun's light like portal into your bodies. Yeah, there we go. And then now imagine the sun's ray slowly becoming more and more concentrated into one beam, one really strong beam. And let it shine right into your heart, this beam. And let this beam fill your heart up into its energy. It's bright, 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 amazing, great energy into the heart. Let it surround it with all this light, giving your body the power that it needs. And your job is just to breathe it in and be with this energy, this beautiful energy. Let it soften throughout your body. We go ahead and thank the sun for its energy. We give it gratitude and appreciation that it gives to us and asks us for no return. It is giving us with unconditional love. And we don't have to give anything back to the sun. The sun just wants to give us the love and for us to receive it. So in gratitude, we thank the sun and we take in this energy to help us move along our day, carrying the energy with us and passing it to people, things, animals, whomever that we feel may benefit from it, as well as ourselves. Together, let's take another breath in. A sweet breath out. Ah, wonderful. Yeah, feel free to take your time. When you feel more complete, you can always open your eyes and slowly take in the light that is all around you.
Thank you so much for leading us in that. Big, powerful sun. I don't know if you could hear my dog snoring over here.
There we go.
Has been asleep snoring through that whole thing.
I hope that your dog received the benefit of the sun.
I am sure she's getting your energy. Yeah. Oh, so appreciate you and sharing your wisdom and sharing all of these different perspectives and practices. And I'm curious, Dianna, do you have, I know you talked about your own sort of daily practices of meditation and mantras. Um, and for those that may be wanting to explore, because you previously named off, Hakomi, Brainspotting, EMDR, and I'm wondering if you have suggestions for people who are wanting to explore whether their clients or even therapists themselves actually. Um, any suggestions for them and where to start and how to start and
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess my one thing is um it's really hard, easier said than done. And I'm practicing it now, even to this day, is I think learning to slow down.
Mm,
Yeah. And I think anybody can do that, right? And
mm,
as a mom, I can't slow down all the time, right? Um, but what I can do is even in things that I do, if I do it with a little bit more joy and if I do a little bit more mindfulness, it naturally like will slow me down.
mm,
Yeah. Um, yeah, I feel like in the past I used to give values for to things like
mm,
rush to get things done so I can get to the juice of what I want to do. Like in my head, that would be what I want to do. Like I'll rush, rush, rush. So um I'll rush cooking a meal so I can really eat this meal, right?
mm,
Rush washing these dishes so I can go sit down and play with my kid or something like that. But what I really learned is over time, I was rushing through my life.
yeah.
And Um, and it doesn't feel good after a while, right? I was kind of rushing also caused a lot of stress, a lot of tension, and in the moments that we finally get to where we're going, or I'm already thinking about the next thing of what I need to do so I can get my
Mm,
moment of rest. And so how I change that is, try not to put value on these different tasks, like even
mm,
about dishes. While I wash the dishes, that could be a moment when I'm practicing my mindfulness of what it feels like for the water to wash over my hands. It's a moment of cleansing, washing away the day. Um, when I'm picking up toys, I, when you have kids, there's toys everywhere all the time. You're frustrated picking up the toys all the time. But what I do is like it's a moment of like, oh, how I can use that time to say, hey, I this is a moment that I'm expressing love for my child. Right?
mm,
Joy. I'm also showing this love for my child, right?
Mm,
So everything that we can do, we can use it as a way fighting against life, or we can use it as a way to flow with life.
mm,
It's still a huge practice for me,
mm,
and I'm still working on it.
mm.
I want to see if people could try it out and see if it may work for them.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like that slowing down, that, yeah, that is when you're talking about washing dishes and allowing the water to sort of wash away and flow, and being that mindful, that present in the moment could really allow us to find joy in those small moments. And I would imagine slowing down like that could help inform us of what is joyful and what we do want to intentionally move forward toward. That sounds so beautiful and flowy. And you're right, it's quite a practice, I would imagine most of us, in this society, it's really hard to slow down like that. And that type of going one thing after another and doing a lot, has been helpful in periods in our life and certainly in society. And it's a whole other thing to try to shift from that, but also, as you said, to shift from that could help us get reconnected to what resonates with us, that joy, and where that next step may be for each of us. So thank you for that reminder. Yeah. I'm still sort of feeling the sun.
Glad you're resonating with it. It's
Yeah, yeah.
the sun is sparkling all around you.
It certainly helps that the sun is out today around me.
We're not raining here.
Yeah. I was just, yeah, instead of walking like you, walking your daughter, I'm walking my dog in the morning, and that's when I get to do that practice of, instead of doing mantras, I was saying earlier about humming, and I find myself often humming as I'm walking my dog and enjoying the nature. And this morning I was feeling the sun, in fact. So it's all sort of connecting together.
Interesting because look, we never really talked about it, but our body naturally is leading us towards that direction, each of us individually, right? Like if we
Yeah,
just open it. I know you, Alan, you also have your own somatic practice and it's very like, you know, in tune with yourself in that way. And your body also naturally leads you in these directions. And we just
yeah, yeah.
sort of kind of on the similar path.
Well, I appreciate you because it was you that mentioned you were so excited with brain spotting that I decided to take a class in it too. And I love it actually.
Yeah, totally. With brain spotting, the great thing is also there's somatic practice along with it of holding space
Yeah,
and and really like using the body to kind of create that space to help client work things out.
yeah, yeah. And it's one of those techniques that you don't necessarily have to talk actually. And that's what I love. Yeah, for those that may not want to do full talk therapy, that's a great approach, right?
I agree. Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I don't know if you get clients particularly coming in, wanting to use these other methods instead of the traditional talk therapy, especially because of your mix of expertise and background.
Yeah, yeah. I get some clients, not all, but a lot of my clients are clients who have maybe tried talk therapy and they found it useful, and yet they're looking for something a little bit more. And so they might find themselves with me. I
Mm,
also do a lot of the other therapists
mm,
who wants to deepen their body knowledge of themselves. Yeah, so people who are kind of interested in this kind of work, I have
mm.
some, and also have clients who may not be exposed to it, and of course I'll go slowly with them and expose a little bit, only if they want to. A lot of it's permission and invitation, and we don't want to force anything on our clients if that's not for them.
Yeah.
And so also giving them space to make that choice. Um, so yeah, these are some of the folks that I work with, and I feel like um, people who are sent to me are usually, aligned with the universe in some way. There's usually like a rhyme or reason to it.
Mhm.
Myself is open to that experience of connecting, even if maybe like my client doesn't present the way that I expect them to, or there's always information and things to learn from them. So yeah.
It's so lovely that you continually go back to, I think of it as very much a feminist practice of checking in to make sure that that's what they want to go into and to be very transparent in that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Because yeah, some of these techniques are so different than talk therapy.
Right, right. And kind of vulnerable too, right? I think
Yeah.
we use our head so much um because we overthink things so we don't have to feel or be in our body because it can be so vulnerable to really be exposed. Our body has no, like, it doesn't lie to us, or it
Yeah.
can't tell us anything different, right? And if we really tune in to it, and it'll give us the answer as it is, truth,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
raw sometimes.
It's quite powerful. Mm. Yeah. Well, Diana, it's such a pleasure, and thank you so much for going on this journey with me and explaining and talking so much about how you incorporate these different practices for both yourself and with clients. Really appreciate you taking the time to come on this channel to do this.
Well, I had a lovely time too talking to you and connecting. Usually, in the therapy space, we don't really have much space to really talk so much. And so it's really nice to have a space to really talk about the practice that I do, and also let people know a little bit about it.
Yes, yes. Yeah, one of my ulterior motives of starting this channel is really to showcase different therapy approaches and these very holistic ways and to help uh, people become more aware of what's available. Yeah. So speaking of, how could people get a hold of you? How could they find you? And I will certainly include information in the description as well that people could access.
Yeah, well, thank you for your work, Alan. And so yeah, people could find me through my website, Dr. Dianna Quach, .com, www.drdiannaquach.com. We can put that on the link below. Yeah, they can find me on Psychology Today. I'm advertised there. Yeah, so they're more than welcome to also email me if they want to reach out to me.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, I will put all of that in the descriptions for people to access. And hopefully you have a great day. I see nice light behind you there.
Yeah.
Beautiful light. All right, Diana, you take good care and we'll connect again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Alan. It's always really nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise, for sure.